The Almost Perfect Podcast.
Welcome to the Almost Perfect Podcast, a celebration of fuck-ups, failures, and falling flat on your face. This is a podcast that believes you can learn from experience, but that experience doesn't have to be your own. Hi, I'm Bob Perfect, and I'm a functional fuck-up. Let's learn from somebody else's mistakes. And today we're learning from Dormant Youth. Now, Dormant Youth, aka Thelma Ndebele, is an architect turned DJ, and it is because of the architecture that they have become a DJ, which I think is one of the most interesting parts of the story that you're about to hear today. But in the 3 years that they have been DJing because of a dissertation that they were writing for their architecture degree, they now have played for Boiler Room through Pussy Party during lockdown, and recently they played a set for CTM, and they've been featured on Resident Advisor. And like I said, they've only been DJing for 3 years, so yeah, it's quite something. And the raddest thing about Dormant Youth is that they play music that not a lot of people in South Africa play, like Chicago Footwork is probably their favorite genre, I would say. It's the one they champion the most. So we get into the reasons why they love Chicago Footwork in this podcast. We also get into the art of clearing dance floors and how Dormant Youth learned to not do that anymore. Learn how to keep them, even though they play music that is fast as fuck and a lot of people don't actually know. They figured out the secret, the formula, and they give it away on this podcast. So yeah, that's coming up in just a little bit. This could have actually been a 2-hour podcast, I'm not going to lie. We ended the conversation and carried on talking for probably like another 50 minutes afterwards. And a little behind the scenes, a little tidbit, a little factoid about this podcast is that we actually got cut off at one point and had to pick it up the next day due to signal issues. So what I'm going to do in the spirits of the Almost Perfect Podcast is, if you can figure out, and you're the first person to figure out at what point that happened, I will send you a pack of Almost Perfect stickers. You will get a pack of 5 stickers in the post, depending on the South African post service. I do have to give that disclaimer. But yeah, if you can figure out, I'm hoping that I've done a good enough job in the edit that you can't. This is a test. I'm also now I know I'm kind of tempting fate, and you're probably all going to just be hearing mistakes throughout the fucking podcast, and that you might not have heard before, but it's a risk I'm willing to take. If you can figure out where the podcast broke, where we had to pick things up from, then I will give you a pack of stickers. But you got to be the first person to hit me up either on social media. So yeah, you can hit me up on Twitter at Almost Perfect ZA, or you can hit me up on Facebook at Almost Perfect Media. You can hit me up on Instagram at Almost Perfect Media, probably, hopefully. And you can also email me at bob@almostperfect.co.za. Yeah, so this is a fun chat. I loved it. We had the best time, and Thelma was a little bit worried about coming on. They didn't necessarily want to be a guest because they were a bit stressed out that they wouldn't know what to say. But yeah, we made sure that is not a problem. Trust me. There is so fucking much to learn from this podcast. I loved listening back to it. I think you're really gonna dig it. I need to let you know that this is a podcast that is brought to you by you. That means you can support it by going to patreon.com/almostperfect and give me as little as $1 a month. You can also give me more. But you can start at $1. We can start this relationship, with $1 a month. That's like 15 rand. That's nothing, bro. Bree? What's the Betty? I hate Betty. I don't like Betty. I don't think I hate Betty. considering, my girlfriend's alias is Betty Page. But, as a term to call a girl, I don't know. What is the female equivalent of brew? It is Betty, isn't it? Fuck. I'm gonna wait. Wait. I've got it. It's brunette! Oh god. I'm sorry. I know it was terrible, but that's all I had at that time. What was I even fucking saying? I'm sorry. Like, we've gone off the rails here a little bit. Got some notes in front of me. I'm gonna go back to the notes. The notes tell me that I'm giving away a Lily's Are Red 7-inch. This is actually fucking rad. If you listen to last week's episode of the podcast with Rose Bonica, then this is relevant to you. I assume there might be some crossover. I assume there might be some people who listened to last week's episode and are listening to this week's episode, and who also are listening to this week's episode and are going to go back and listen to last week's episode, because weirdly enough, multiple people in the survey for this podcast, which you can find in the show notes, requested both these people on the podcast, which is why you are hearing them. But yeah, you can go back and listen to the Rose Bonica podcast, and you can win yourself a copy of the Lilies Are Red 7-inch. Now, this is a collab between We Are Lilies and Roses Are Red, which are two independent record labels here in South Africa. And Roses Are Red is Rose Bonica's record label. And we didn't actually get to chat enough about that side of things in the podcast. But if you would like to win this, and it's worth a couple $100, I can't remember what I paid for it. Because yeah, I bought it with Patreon money. Sorry, patrons. Or, you can enter. This is one of the few times where I'm not like just giving patrons something from their money. This is going to everyone, or at least someone who cares. Someone who really cares. So go listen to the Rose Bonica episode of the Almost Perfect podcast, and hit me up at bob@almostperfect.co.za or on social media, and let me know what your takeaway was from that episode, or what your most important takeaway, your most pertinent takeaway, your biggest takeaway, just something from that podcast that really stood out to you, and why. Because, you got to motivate your answer. You got to give me a reason. And my favorite answer by the 21st of February, midnight, which is my birthday, will win the Lilies Are Red 7-inch, which has 2 tracks on it. I'll link it in the show notes here, I think, or you can just go check it out on the social media, which I've told you about previously, and so you already went and followed it, so I'm not going to tell you again. But yeah, you can go check it out on the social media for this, for that, for everything else. And what else do I want to tell you about? I wanted to tell you about the fact that I cut my own hair again this week. So I bought myself some clippers last year, and I'm grateful that the only person that gets to see me on a daily basis is my gran, because yeah, she thinks it looks great because it's short. I can kind of see where maybe it's worth hiring a professional. It's just trying to avoid getting the vid as much as possible. So went DIY on something that takes a little bit more precision than let me just do this in a dirty fucking mirror and hope for the best. Thankfully, the filter on my new phone, on my Xiaomi Redmi 9, makes it look like it didn't go that badly. So I'm happy about that. Also, I did an interview with More Indie, which is a rad new website. Moreindie.com, I think. It might be moreindie.co.za. So just one of those two are going to get you to that interview, and a bunch of other dope interviews. It's a cool collection of interviews and reviews, and it actually kind of reminds me a little bit of Derwin Is Yours in some ways, but with like way better design. So it looks dope as fuck, and they've got some really interesting interviews with some cool as fuck people, and also me. There's also a video podcast that I did with Jonathan Brady. He invited me on as a guest for his series called East Coast Feels, the Creative Corner. And yeah, it was a fun chat. It's awkward being a guest, I guess. Like, you do regret some things you said and wish you didn't say it. Like, there's some moments where I'm just like, if I could have expanded on that, or like if I did expand on that, maybe it would have made sense, but also no one wanted to hear that. That's why you cut yourself off there. But now you just sound like an idiot to the people who actually know it, but you also don't actually know, so why do you worry anyway? So, I get why sometimes my guests might be a little bit worried about coming on. But you can go and check that out by just the social media. The social media is where everything is these days. That's you know that's how it is. You know that. Why do I need to tell you that? Don't need to tell you that. But you got to rate, review, and subscribe. Hit that like button, the bell icon, all the things, all the fucking things need to be done. Like giving shout outs to the patrons over at patreon.com/almostperfect. There is a tier called the titular titles tier. Now this is a $10 tier. And if you're on this tier, it means that you are a part of the Almost Perfect cast and crew. It is a bit weird in that like you don't actually get paid to work for me. Instead, it's more like you pay me and you get an honorary title and I do all the work. So everyone seems to be happy with this arrangement. Maybe you want to get involved. Like it seems like a good scheme. I'm happy with it. They're happy with it. Maybe you'll be happy with it. Maybe you just want that recognition. Maybe you just want to help me out by kicking back a few shekels each month. Either way, this is the cast and the crew of the Almost Perfect podcast. So shout outs to the Chief Sales Officer of Subtle Hair Seeds in the Greater Overberg region, Rousseau. Shout out to King Julian. Shout outs to our executive producer, who is Stephen Olivier. Shout outs to the spiritual advisor, which is Vishendra Naidu. And shout outs to Tyron Love, who is our pantsless weasel. Lastly, we have got a newsletter. And by we, I mean we. Yeah, we. Me and the crew. All of us. We have got a newsletter that I write. And the January edition is finally ready. Like, whatever. For me, I wrote down the goal of 12 newsletters this year. That's it. 12 newsletters. I did not say to myself, I didn't even tell you guys about this. This was all to me. But I didn't say to myself, hey, dude, you need to write a newsletter every month. I said 12. So number 1 should be out by the time you're listening to this. You can subscribe to it on the website, or guess what? Guess fucking what? The social media. Almost Perfect. Just put that in. You should find me, or you should find a Weird Christian Podcast, because that's a thing now. Just search Almost Perfect on podcasting platforms and you will know exactly what I mean. But yeah, newsletter. Go sign up or don't. Either way, that's coming at you. And guess what else is coming at you? It's the Almost Perfect podcast with Dormant Youth. So how are you living, Dormant Youth?
Hi, Bob. I'm all right. How are you?
I'm actually pretty good today. Like, I've spent most of the day at the beach, so I've had a good time. I'm feeling a little bit of a sunburn, and we had a long walk. Like, well, not that long. It was only about 2Ks, but still, a long walk along the actual beach with my girlfriend. So I'm feeling top of the world at the moment. And yeah, yourself?
Yo, I'm kind of the opposite. I've just been in bed
Not the same.
all day. No. But it was a nice weekend. Got to see some friends. So, pretty chilled.
No, trust me, I spent many a Sunday in bed. This was the rare opportunity because my girlfriend actually got commissioned to do some photos. So I would just tag along, as the assistant.
Of course.
But yeah, so this weekend was a chilled one. But last weekend I saw you, were you playing CTM?
Yeah, CTM Festival in Berlin. They had a kind of virtual club night with Club Quarantine, also from Berlin. So it was cute. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw there was quite a bit of buzz about that. Like people were digging your vibe, and you're on pretty late, weren't you?
Well, COVID times it's late, but like in a regular setting, it would have been like prime time. So I was really stoked about that.
Prime
I was like,
time.
oh my gosh, it's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so you actually got like almost like a headline, mainline slot.
Basically. Yeah. That's what I'm going with anyways.
That's the time slot, so that's the vibe. Like, I feel you. Like, I'm totally with you there. Although you've actually been playing quite a lot of these sets from home or various other locations for the internet during the pandemic. How have you
Yeah.
found this whole experience? Because I mean, you're someone that obviously I think I saw you at Vogue Nights Josie last year sometime at the tennis club, and I know you're the
Really?
kind of person, yeah. Coco and Ree took me there, so that was
Oh, cool,
Vogue
cool.
Nights was a fucking vibe. We'll chat
Oh,
about that just now. I had
yes.
the absolute best time, and that's the thing. So I know you're someone who thrives off the dance floor and vibes. So how have you found things?
Um, I don't know how I come across as someone who thrives off the dance floor, but I actually prefer this kind of virtual thing. It's
Oh really?
less, yeah, way less anxiety, way less me feeling like people are judging me, even though I'm judging myself and projecting. It's yeah.
I don't know. I
I've
just saw you dancing along to the crowd once, so I guess that's why I had that
What?
perception. Because I guess if people were digging, yeah, I saw you you were digging
Mm.
it. You were having a good time.
Listen, Vogue nights and the ballroom adjacent events are always a key. I love it. They are like my spaces. So it's like maybe I was just enjoying myself and not clearing the dance floor. That's the one thing I think. I always get anxious about ugh, the crowd's probably not gonna dig this, and this isn't a very South African sound I'm playing, so I'm just I'm always anxious to see what the crowd's gonna do because usually they just leave.
And that's kind of the reason why I don't DJ anymore, because I very rarely kept the dance floor. They would
Yeah.
come for a bit, and then I would bust out some weird obscure shit that no one digs
Hmm.
and no one's vibing with, and then just really lean into it when they left. Didn't try to bring them back. So that's
Yeah,
that's
no,
kind of why I
same.
don't DJ that much anymore.
Yeah, I'm starting to learn now how to read a room, which is very ironic since reading rooms is what I do professionally. So it's like I need to actually now take heed and see what the crowd is doing if I'm actually going to try and be a good quote unquote DJ.
Yeah, but how's the online side of it been then? So you were saying that you preferred it compared to normal gigs because it's less anxiety.
Yes. So basically, the way I think it comes from the way I prep my sets as well. Like I'll take a long time trying to figure out what to play, when to play it, how to mix it, what part to mix in, what part to leave trailing while I fade it out and stuff like that. I don't know. I think I kind of approach it a bit too seriously. So I work on my playlist and I work on my track list and I work on how fast am I playing the song and when am I upping the tempo, stuff like that. So with the virtual gigs, it seems like it feels like none of that goes to waste, and I can actually execute it comfortably and as many times as I want and get it to sound how I want it to sound. So yeah, that's why I enjoy rather pre-recording and sending it off to a streaming service rather than plugging in my USB into actual CDJs.
I feel you. It's such an intimidating thing, especially when we're on a
Mm,
lineup with other banging DJs, and it's just and
exactly.
I've seen your name on some really good lineups, so I can imagine that just gets super intimidating.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm a baby DJ and I'm playing alongside people I still listen to every single day and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. Let me try and not kill the vibe, but you know, sometimes it works out, sometimes it don't. Life.
Have you found these online gigs have actually helped boost your name?
I think definitely I have much more reach online than I do in the physical world because I also feel like I'm not that good at networking, especially
Fair enough.
going out and speaking to people. I'm quite an anxious person, apparently. I've found that out recently. And yeah, I used to think I was super social, but then again, I'm never the person that actively goes and speaks to people about their work unless I'm running up to I don't know, for instance, somebody that I'll see somewhere and I'm like, oh my gosh, I recognize you off the internet, and start gushing at them about their work. So yeah.
That's awesome though. So like the thing that actually inspires you to not be anxious is other people whose work you dig.
Basically, yeah. But then it just stops there. I'll be like, oh my gosh, I love your work, and then I'll just leave them be. Never goes further. Like I never like actively network and say, oh my gosh, I'm so and so, and this is what I do.
I think that's fair enough though. Like that's such a pure way to approach things though. It sucks like when people, I mean, I'm like such a minor player in like everything, but I've had like so many people throughout my career like try like
Mm.
network with me, and it just like fucking, I hate it. Like it rubs me such the wrong way. And like when someone's just like, yo, I dig your vibe, and then fucks off, like I remember that person so much better and so much more than like the person who's like, oh, I dig you, bro, we should work together, you know?
Let's build.
Yeah, exactly. Like fuck, people been building forever, and I've been building
Team
forever,
building.
so I can't really be taking too many shots at too many people there.
Oh
But
gosh,
yeah, you
yeah.
say you're a baby DJ, so how long have you been DJing for?
What's it now? 2021. This is my third year DJing.
Oh, fuck off.
I'm telling
I know.
you, like I started DJing in March of 2019 when I like started my postgraduate dissertation. Like literally, I wasn't even going out to become a DJ. I was using DJing as a way of analyzing nightclub spaces because that was like my main interest.
Oh, snap. I think I saw something about that. I don't fucking remember what, to be completely honest, but
Mm.
like I think that might have actually been the first time your name came up. Was there any press about that? Or like I'm trying to think of how I know that.
I think I tweeted about it
Okay.
a couple times, and then I've only like recently started adding that part into like my press kits and stuff. If people ask me for a bio, then I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm an architect and I started DJing because of my dissertation, and then that's
Okay,
how it
so
like yeah, it's
do you
built
want to
out.
explain
So
how that happened?
wait, which part?
We can start with the architect part and then yeah, go
Okay.
into how that became a thing about nightclubs and then that how that became you becoming a
Mm.
DJ.
Okay, so let me see. Where do I start this really eventful story? Basically, so I did my undergrad in Pretoria, and in first year I was like 17. I was just about to turn 18, and we went out, and I wasn't allowed to go into any of the clubs. Literally, the bouncer at Square was like, "Nah, I'm not letting you in. You're 17." I was like, "Dude, my birthday is like in a month or something," and he was like, "No." I was like,
That old
okay,
excuse. You got to
honestly.
get a
So
fake
then,
ID.
yeah,
That's the only way to really sneak into a club. It's that, or if you
correct.
can swing an extra 100 or $200, like
Hey,
depending
who
on
had
the
extra money?
establishment.
Uh-uh. I guess so, but I wasn't gonna pay to get into Square, and like all my friends were like literally waltzing in. So I was just like, you know what, whatever, my time will come. So I went back to like the studio, started working, whatever. And that was when like my obsession with nightlife kind of like started. I was like, why am I just not allowed in this space? I'm gonna like look further into it. I took it very personally. So then,
Oh, I've been there.
um,
I've been there. When clubs have not let me in my 20s because I didn't have ID on me. I have taken that
oh my
very
word.
personally.
Oh no, like how could you not though? Like okay, so then that happened in undergrad, and then after that I just kept going out like every weekend, finding out about all these different music genres. It was a pretty like multicultural time to be in Hatfield around 2013 to 2016.
Oh snap! Yeah, that was actually
Mm.
like a really great time period for
For art and culture
Pretoria.
in general. Yeah, 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 yeah,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, in general in
So,
South Africa, but Pretoria was like a pretty decent hub. Like I remember, like that was when
mm.
Park Acoustics was just starting out, and
Oh,
like yeah,
Parkoustic. Yes. That's where I actually met my favorite band. Sorry. Anyway, so
who's your favorite
actually,
band?
Johnny Foreigner, these guys from
Oh
Birmingham.
snap! Okay,
Yeah, I love those guys.
In-
Anyway,
interesting.
yeah.
Would never
I
have
know,
picked
like
that for you, but like
fun
just
fact.
judging by the music you DJ, like I would have never picked that as your favorite band.
Yeah, no, nobody knows. Nobody ever thinks. Even my brother's like, girl, how do you even, why do you even like these people? Like, leave me alone, okay? But anyway,
Okay, back to
um,
architecture, back to not being allowed into clubs.
yeah, not being allowed into clubs, underage. So then I moved to Joburg in 2017 to start working as an intern at this one big firm, and I hated it. I hated it so
Well,
much. I was like, is this my life?
why did you get into architecture?
That's actually a simple thing of just applying to something that looked interesting in passing. So a
Oh
classmate of
snap.
mine, all right. I feel like all my decisions have just been haphazard and me just going with the flow.
I mean,
But
that's the reason why a lot of people do stuff like, and why I
true,
think sometimes studying straight out of high school can be a problem. You know, like
terrible,
because
terrible
you're
idea.
18, you don't necessarily know what you want to do for the rest of your life. Like
Exactly.
yeah. So was this one of those kind of situations?
Mm, basically, a friend of mine was applying, and what was I gonna do? I think I was gonna be an accountant or something.
uh,
Wild,
I, you're
right?
my high school dreams, eh? I don't even want to get into it.
Hey, yeah, no. So I applied for, I think for architecture because a friend of mine was doing it, and the application process looked sick. Like you had to draw something, and then you had to submit a few things, and I was like, oh, I can do that, and then I did it, and here I am, 7 years later.
So
Yeah,
you were at a
so
firm that you hated?
I moved to Joburg. I thought like I was living the dream, big firm. This is what the trajectory is supposed to be. But I hated it. I was miserable every day. Like I really I think like developed a lot of neuroses in the job, and I was just like, yeah, no, I can't do this. The one thing I like about working here is that I can at least like earn a little bit of money and go out sometimes. And I only even started going out in like 2018, like really actually. Yo, after that whole like mess of depression and stuff, I got really into like Mount Kimby. And then I was like, oh, okay. I was like looking into like their history and stuff and what they were doing, and like, they had like the live music part of their career going on, and like the club music part of their career going on, and I was like, oh, this is really really interesting. Like I really enjoy this vibe, and then I saw that they were like playing gigs at like these really cool underground clubs all over the world, and I was like, okay, that's cool. That would be a cool thing to do. And that's like I also got my stage name from a Mount Kimby song. So like I really got into them and I was like, okay, cool. I'm super depressed here. I like music. Music gets me through the day. I'm tired of pressing next. Let me just like pressing next on my music player. Let me just like make a little mix. And then I made a mix on my phone and that was cute or whatever. And then I started thinking, hold on, like a lot of this music permeates a lot of different like urban scapes in the world. And like it's actually like helped me kind of travel, quote unquote, albeit like digitally through like certain parts of the world that I wouldn't know existed. And I'm sure some people living in that part of the world don't know exists either. So then I'm like, okay, music is kind of like a little bit of a gateway architecturally to different like urban pockets in different cities. I wonder if like that stuff happens here. So then I
Hmm.
started going out more, discovered Newtown for myself. I think I went there for it was either
Oh snap!
propaganda or
Newtown
science
was a vibe.
fiction. Dude, yeah, but I was like still scared.
Yeah, I remember when Carfax was a vibe, and like yeah, street parties there, and going like gallivanting around that area into spaces that maybe shouldn't have been going into, and yeah, like it
Exactly.
was.
And like walking a bit too far and getting to baseline and you're like, whoa, what is this? You know? I mean, yeah, I think after I started like trying to discover Joburg through music venues is where I was like, okay, cool. So DJing is actually a little bit of like a medium, an architectural medium, or like a way of discovering architecture at least. So then
What
like
do
I
you mean by
spent
that?
well, Okay, so I spent like 2018 just getting really into nightlife and starting to despise like who I was in the daytime and like having to go to work. So then I was like, you know what? Let me at least try and engage with my profession in a way that I like. So I started trying to look at architecture at night and what architecture does at night and like, you know, what more can be done with buildings instead of like them like closing at 5 p.m. and then they're just standing there for like nothing until like the morning again. Um, so then I realized that like by watching like people in the club and watching the DJs and stuff, like these people have access to more of the city than like the regular person. So like that got
Yeah.
me interested in like, okay, cool. So then this technically makes them like architects as well, like very, very loosely. So then I kind of like ran with that idea.
I
And
like
then I
that.
applied for like my post grad because I wanted to, number one, get away from work, and number two, like at least maybe try and do something productive that I don't necessarily hate. Because like with architecture, like you have to like get a professional license to actually practice as an architect, and that's a
Yeah.
whole spiel. Like after your undergrad degree, you can either work for I think a total of like 5 to 6 years in order to qualify to write the professional license exam, or you can get your master's degree and then do only like a year or 2 years in work experience to then qualify to write the professional license exam.
So if you want to be an architect, you have to fucking mean it.
You have to mean it and you have to go all in. You have to join like committees, like mandatory committees and boards. It's a lot. But I guess it's supposed to be a lot because you're literally building structures that people live in and work in. Like it's not
Yeah.
play, you know.
Yeah, architects and engineers are literally the reason why we all have roofs over our heads, like at any point
Legit.
in time.
Exactly. So you have to go all in. So yeah, I decided to rather go the postgraduate route and also try and do something that I actually enjoy and not necessarily like be miserable for the rest of like my time in this profession. It was either that or quit, and I'd like to think I'm good at quitting, but turns out I'm not. I'm quite obsessive. So I'm like, okay, I have to finish this now.
You're pot
Um,
committed
yeah,
essentially. Like your
basically,
money your money is in the pot. Like you're there. Like you have to see it
I'm
out
there. I
until
have to see it
the
through.
dirty
Yep.
end.
Yeah. Oh
So
shit.
you were doing your
Okay,
post grad.
cool. Yes, I was doing my post grad, and the first year of that didn't go so well. I was still trying to flesh out exactly what I'm trying to say, trying to flesh out exactly what I was trying to do. Because I was under the impression that in post grad, you kind of solidify your ideas within the whole learning process, but I was wrong. You kind of have to
Okay.
know what you're doing and then explore that as much as you can. So, yeah, I kind of like bit off more than I could chew in my first year. But in my second year, I went really hard and I got it somewhat right.
And then through that, how did you get into DJing through doing your post grad?
Right. See,
So
I
because
lost the point
that's
to
where this
why I
whole
was
story
talking
ends
about
up.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I started DJing. I did a mix, a Chicago Footwork mix. I got really into like tech life and looking at
Okay.
kind of the urbanity of like dancing and music and DJing and how all those three things intertwine with cities and how people move and like kind of also the identity of a place, some
Yeah.
like, in a small way. And then I started looking more into like why footwork is the way it is and why it happened where it happened. And I started like linking a lot of different things.
What about footwork appeals to you? Because you're one of the few DJs that I've heard play it, like genuinely. Like, especially in South Africa, not many people play Chicago
That's
footwork,
so
and
true.
it's
Just
such a
like,
and it's such a dope like experience when you do. I think that's one of the highlights of that Boiler Room set that you did was when you were mixing in the
mm,
footwork, and it was like just at the right time,
mm,
and like you mix it in with like in some of your other
hmm
mixes, and like yeah, like it works. It's such a cool vibe. So
Thanks.
how did you get into that, and what about it appeals to you?
My brother got me into footwork. Shame. I literally steal everything from him: clothes, music taste, personality. So yeah, he got me into it, and I think he thought I'd like it because I was also like one of those kids that was into drum and bass and jungle.
Fair.
And I was only like a junglist through like video games. My brothers were like way into like Xbox and stuff, and they'd buy all these games, and the soundtrack would literally just be
Not
like
like
drum and
SSX
bass and
tricky and
jungle
like
only, basically. And like even like fucking racing games, like Gran Turismo had so much
oh
drum and bass on it. I was like, what?
yeah, Need for Speed as
Yeah,
well.
exactly. So I just sit there watching them play these games, and I started liking the music. Yeah, so I was just like into that kind of like fast-paced music, and I'm like, I didn't know what it was, and I really liked it. And then my brother was like, okay, then check out Footwork. Like, it's basically that, but more black. I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. That sounds dope. And I think that's
It's a
why I
good
like it. It's
descriptor. Well,
literally, yeah, it's very black music, just very, very, very black music. And I enjoy that about it. I think that's like the most I can like get out in words. Yeah, but I just like it because it's really, really black. It's a black expression that I didn't hear growing up. Well, didn't know about growing up, but I was hearing it. And then I fell in love with it, and then I got obsessed. And I was watching all of the footwork tutorial videos and like learning about tech life and what they were doing globally, like with Hyperdub and Code 9 and all of those guys. And then I made my first ever Dormant Youth mix, which was the Just Jukin 001. I think it's still on my SoundCloud. I think from then I made a Twitter account for my DJing, and then I followed a couple people. I think I followed the people that I kind of met around Kitcheners and Great Dane, and I followed Coco, Colleen, and
oh
then
yeah,
she just happened to check out my SoundCloud and heard this mix, and she was like, "What? Like, why are you in South Africa playing Chicago Footwork? This is dope." And then she hit me up and she was like, "If you want to learn how to mix on CDJs, just let me know. I run this pussy party workshop. You can come through and we'll get you on CDJs ASAP. Like, we need more black femme people DJing out in these spots. Like, we need to like demask the scene basically." And it was like kind of like not radical, but it was just, I guess you can say it was a breath of
intentional.
fresh air that like I was playing like this wild ass genre
Oh,
that only like a few of us know about down here. Yeah, and
sorry,
then
I was saying the
yeah,
intentional just in terms of, like I thought you were talking about Pussy Party and being a vehicle for femme black woman and or femme people and black people and just a broader spectrum than what we see in DJ culture at the moment or
exactly.
for quite a long time.
For quite
And
a
I do
while,
think
yeah.
like Coco has been so instrumental in so much, like in Joburg and like reaching out and doing collabs here in Durban. So
100%,
yeah,
yeah. Mm.
so that was your in there.
Yeah, that was my end. I didn't know at the time how broadly like Coco's influence was, like in like the general like sort of alternative slash underground scene. But I guess it was just like a correct stab in the dark.
It's so funny. Like I've gone to Joburg and I stay at a place with her and Ree a few times
Yeah. And the
and
cats,
go
shout
out
out
with
to John and
them.
Yuki.
Yeah, yeah. Johnny Jewel. But yeah, and like rolling with Coco and Ree is just like they're like celebrities almost, but it's because of how much they've done for the scene and how much they put into everything. So it
Exactly.
is just like people don't really necessarily know. And it's not like an influence thing and they're like, yo, like throwing weight around or anything. It's like a subtle
Yeah.
thing and just like by
Yeah.
building.
Exactly. Yeah, no,
So
they
you got involved in Pussy Party and from there?
yeah, and then from there I think I played like my first gigs like in the following month. And I didn't play any Chicago Footwork on my first gig. I was just like, oh.
Why
I
not?
know. I was just very like nervous, and I was like, you know what? I've been out to Kitcheners. I've been out in Bram. I know what people want to hear. I'm just gonna play like a similar vibe, but I'm still gonna play like super alternative, like rap and stuff. So I was playing like SoundCloud rap, like Spooky Black and like Lil Ugly Mane, those types of like
Oh snap!
people.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So I kind of like still felt like, okay, I'm doing what I would do, but it's not necessarily like a juke set. Yeah, and then from there I like grew more confident and I was like, you know what, whatever, fuck it. I'm gonna play footwork and I'm gonna clear the dance floor, but at least I played what I wanted to play.
But have you found a way for it to not clear the dance floor?
Yeah, actually. I think when I started doing my sets that go like from 120 BPM up to 160, that's when the crowd
Yeah.
sort of like stayed with me and like was trying to see what I'm gonna mix in next. Because
Oh, cool.
like I don't like stick to like the any like genre like at all. I go like per BPM and like it's like a race to get to 160. Like I need to be at 160 BPM 40 minutes into my set. So like I try and like make sure the vibe is still kind of cute and bassy, but then I need to be playing footwork for the last 20 minutes of my set. So like once I started doing that, I'd like start with like a bit of deep house, then go to Gorm, and then go to house, like European and like American house, and then go to like Jersey Club and Baltimore Club, and then finish off at Footwork. So then I
Okay,
think it
snap.
was
So working
just,
your way up, yeah.
yeah, yeah, it was just like the crowd like started to see like, okay, like what are they gonna like mix next? What are they where are they going with this? Like I think that's like the novelty of my performance. All of that's in quotes. Yeah.
I mean, I think like just even thinking back to your boiler room set, that is very much what was so exciting and fun about it. Because I was literally in my lounge dancing to your set. Like I was really
Thank you.
loving it. And like, yeah, your track selections were phenomenal. You played like, yeah, a lot of stuff that like was familiar and then also stuff I had no clue about. And it was
Mm,
just, yeah, it was such a dope experience. But that was the thing, like it did just keep building and it did just keep getting like more and more hyped. So I guess like that's kind of your
yeah.
vibe, is just to like hype it up to the footwork and then like that breaks everything. Instead of, I guess before you were trying to like put it in a bit too early or like, yeah, get things
Yeah.
a bit too quick, a bit too soon. So the
Or just play a complete footwork set. Yeah, like yo, like I think five of my like first few gigs, I would play just flat out footwork for an hour or like 2 hours. I was like, you know what, you're gonna hear this work and like you're either gonna be on the dance floor at the bar or smoking. Yeah, I was very like unrelenting that way. But I found a way to kind of work a little bit with the crowd, maybe throw in some familiar sounds, but still like
I
enjoy
think
myself.
every artist goes through that journey of like, I'm just gonna do the thing that I want to do, and
Yeah,
fuck you guys, you're gonna like it. And then like people don't like it, and you're like, maybe I should do some things that people like. Like maybe I
yeah,
could do that with the thing I like, and we create something that we all like together. And I think like that's
exactly.
such an important like part of like the artistic journey is
Yeah,
remembering that hey, I can do this for other people too.
exactly. But like I said, like I wasn't exactly trying to read the room or perform for people. I was just there, like trying basically to do my dissertation at the same time.
Oh yeah. So what was the vibe there?
Okay, so now that like I'm done with it and I'm looking back and like I've written all my abstracts and prologues and stuff, like what I can say I was doing is I was researching the mechanics and the gestures of DJing as kind of like an archival process and as well as like a way of creating place in an architectural sense. So like what I
Okay.
mean by like creating place or like place making is like place can be defined by like the rituals and gestures and connections that are made within like a specific area.
Sure.
And yeah, I found like a few quotes supporting that. So thank the Lord for that. So yeah, I was exploring that through looking at the dance floor as a space in which places are created for different kinds of individuals and where gestures and like intermingling kind of intersect and like create a new type of place or a new type of experience within the setting of an architectural shell. Yeah, so I was just like researching that and like going to different events and trying to see how different DJs create places differently, and like obviously also watching like a lot of boiler room sets and looking at how people create place there, and like how different methods of mixing affects different crowds and stuff. And that went down pretty well. Like my dissertation did pretty well. No distinction, which I'm still angry about, but it was quite
You
good.
got
Yeah.
robbed.
Listen, they didn't know what to do with me, so I kind of get it. It's like you can't really like grade this, like, because what am I really doing? You know, like there isn't like a real precedent for the kind of thing I was looking at. There's like a few points I would
Well, not
hit
from an
on that other people
architectural,
would like.
like,
Yeah, not from an architectural perspective, but I was doing an architecture degree, so I get it in that sense. Like I could have spatialized it a bit more, but at the end of the day, they also understood that that wasn't my real like main intention. But they were still happy enough to like humor me and like give me a few like pointers on how to like make it a bit more relevant to my degree. But at the end of the day, I still did it. I think yeah, my dissertation won the Disruptive Pedagogy Award, which
oh, that's dope.
I hadn't heard of it before, but apparently it's like because of like my methodology and the way of researching was so like out of the norm and
Unique.
like unique, yeah, like that they were like, okay, this is actually quite a good way of looking at space making and like spatial tactics within an environment that architects never really like think about. Like architects aren't really in in the space of like operating at night. And they were like, okay, that's pretty cool. At least like
But surely
I've
there
opened up a
are
bit
like
of a
some like people
mm,
who specialize in those sorts of spaces, and also I'm thinking for like events and for festivals and stuff like that. I guess I don't necessarily get architects involved in that. Like,
exactly. Like there isn't that much, not in academia anyway. Let me say that. Like there isn't too much written about nightlife architecture. It's also like very niche and also very Eurocentric as well. So then I
yeah,
think reconfiguring my context to South Africa, which is post-colonial, post-apartheid, and like a very unique spatial situation, it also like gave it that kind of like, okay, just that disruptive nature. Like, okay, maybe this can be a new architecture in a new South Africa, like in the broadest way possible.
well, what was some of your source material? Anything that
um,
like would interest us as an audience?
I am not sure actually, but I was reading a lot of Bubblegum Club actually. So
Oh,
like
snap.
exactly. Shout
I've
out
heard
to
of them.
you. Yeah, I was reading a lot of like all of their articles, like because I was operating also from a place of like queer events, like for a very, very, very specific subculture in South Africa. That's also quite new. My dissertation revolved around Vogue Nights JHB as well. So it was a thing of like um, researching the kind of people that go there, their unique struggles within this unique city, and what architecture can do in whatever way to kind of assist in making their urban experience a bit more, I don't know, enjoyable or even just better in any way possible. So that was like also another angle of mine. What else was I reading? Just,
Did you see that documentary on nightlife in sorry, it was on YouTube. It's a documentary on nightlife in Joburg.
is it the one that was
In
directed
like
by Zandi?
I think so, yes.
Was
Like
it
it was
the
about
one?
like with Charles Bluchnote and quite a few other notable people.
I'm not sure. I think we may
Ah,
be speaking
damn.
about the same one. It was the one that I watched. It was like a short, I think less than 20 minutes
Yeah,
documentary. Lerato Kuti was also interviewed in there, and they were talking also about like, I think the turn of the century, like also looking at like Kwaito and like
exactly.
how,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, then I think it's Raven Resistance, I think. I
Yes, that's exactly it.
yeah, I looked at that one. I reached out to Zandi, but then obviously schedules and stuff didn't match up. So like I took a few pointers from there, looking at illegal raves and stuff like that. Yeah, I was a bit all over the place, but I had to like chisel it down at the end, and I managed to. But yeah, that was also some of my source material. And I was looking at a lot of films, like looking at what architecture as a setting can do for like, oh gosh, I lost my train of thought.
Culture.
For culture, yeah. But yeah, I was literally looking at so many different things and overlaying them and trying to see how they can intersect to become something that can fit an event place. Like I was literally prototyping an event place for other individuals.
If you look at like Joburg and like especially with the events that you play at, I mean both
Yeah,
Pussy Party and Vogue Nights, like one's at a
yeah,
tennis club, the other is often at Kitchener's, which is called that after a colonialist and has
exactly.
the architecture of like this old school bar. And both
Hmm.
those places are now being subverted in their own way through
Mm.
culture, through music, through art.
And
So
Newtown as well. Like, there's a
yeah,
lot of like
yeah.
your architectural history there, even like just cultural history, especially in Newtown. Yeah, yo, if you know what, I'll send you the link to my dissertation. You can look through it if you want to. It's just like
Oh,
an
for sure.
online portfolio. I did like a huge analysis on Kitchener's. Like I think the whole of my honors year, I was just drawing out Kitchener's, modeling Kitchener's, just kind of like mapping and drawing out the ethnographic qualities of the space and all of that. It was a lot, but yeah, I'll send that
Also,
to
how
you.
that's changed over time.
Yeah, I didn't get too much into that, but yeah, it was a point that was mentioned.
Yeah, because well, yeah, Kitchener's has gone through quite a few different
Yep,
phases, but
yep, yep.
I've been digging it the last couple times I've been there. I only get to go like I do Joburg. Well, I haven't done it in over a year now, but like I do Joburg maybe 2 or 3 times a year if I can. And like Kitchener's both for comedy and then also for at least like one of like Coco and Ree's Joel's or like if something else. Like I've seen some really really dope lineups like at Kitchener's, and it's one of my favorite spaces because it's so
True,
cramped and cozy. Like it just feels, yeah, like it just feels cozy, like to me. And
exactly.
in Durban, we got a place called the Winston, which is like a lot more dingy in its own way. Like, well, it's a lot more dark, whereas like
That sounds
Kitchener's
so
just
cool.
feels. Oh shit, you would probably love the
It
Winston.
sounds right up my alley.
Yeah, no, the Winston's got amazing like dope graffiti all over it, and like yeah, well, it's also a space that's shifted a lot over the years. Like my grandfather used to go drink there when it was like a Sunday afternoon pub, like for a hotel, and it's
Damn.
literally named after Winston Churchill. And now
Yeah,
it's like the hotel is a club, and the bar is like just like a punk bar that has any type of music that will like hire out the venue play there.
damn.
So I've thought for years like you're about like doing something like other documentary or like just something on the history of that building. And like
Hmm.
I can imagine Joburg's got like so many buildings like that. Do you have like those kind of like thoughts when you go past places? Like you just imagine their history, or am I overreaching there?
I mean, I kind of like just imagine throwing a party there. Not
Oh
necessarily.
snap.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think of the architecture first. It's more of an afterthought, which is why I'm just like, okay, why am I still doing this? But it's still kind of it's an interesting profession to be in. I mean, elitist as fuck, but that's a whole nother story. But I always
But it's
think
also
like,
not a bad career just in terms of like something to like be stable with.
not in the recession and the pandemic.
Oh really? I guess
My
people aren't
word.
building buildings, are they?
No one's building anything. Like, ugh, it's it's tense. It's touch and go.
I think everyone can relate there. Like no matter what
True.
industry you're in at
True,
the
true,
moment,
true.
people are doing less of the thing that you are selling. Like
Oh,
whatever
that's
you are
true.
selling, to a degree, depending on who you are. I guess like Elon Musk is selling people dreams and he's like making more cash. But other than that,
100.
I don't know.
Ah, lol. When I do like drive past an interesting looking building, I obviously like do like take it in as like a historic piece of architecture. But then I think, okay, if it's in the CBD, it's in Joburg, it looks extremely like colonial. It's got like columns and like ornate marble details. It has to have a basement. So in that basement, it's either been retrofitted to have been a disco in the 80s or 90s, or it's just a parking lot, which again, you can throw a party there.
Wow.
I'm always like thinking, okay, like this would be a cool little like hidden away little gem of a club, like, but who's got that money and who's got that time?
Hey, I
But
mean,
it's
people have
just a
managed to
cute
make
thing.
things work. I mean,
True. It's a cute
if
thing
you
for me
look
to
at
think
the
about.
history of if you look at the history of culture, well, counterculture and subcultures, somehow, some way, these things happened, and no one ever has fucking money. Like, I know I've thrown
True.
like hundreds of parties, and literally, like, every time going into it, it's pretty much had nothing, and leaving it
Mm.
pretty much had nothing. But
Mm-hmm.
still, we had a good time. So,
Oh gosh,
oh,
yeah. I low key know what that feels like.
oh, is it? Have you thrown some
Yeah,
parties?
just literally one party. Cause I did the virtual basement during the span of the first lockdown. That was kind of me moving online from like one party I threw in January. So UJ had
Got to keep the
access.
brand strong.
Exactly. UJ had access to a basement in Juta Street, which was one of like the
Oh,
venues for our
nice.
post grad kind of like conferences, and I think sometimes we had lectures there. The lecturers that were specifically my supervisors were stationed there, like that was kind of their offices as well, so they kind of let me like flesh out the theories that I was building in my honors year. So then what that turned out to be was the basement, which was trying to be a little underground party within that basement. And
Nice.
yo, yeah, when I tell you I had to like beg my mom to like just borrow me just like a little bit of cash just to have some sound, just to hide the sound in the CDJs. I was literally flat broke and I still threw this party.
First time I put bands together, I didn't realize that you needed more sound than their amps and drums. I was like 17, so fair enough.
Fair
Like, and
enough.
I was used to punk gigs and stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, like that was one of those like things where like the bands got there were like, "Where's the sound, dude?" Like it was like, "What do you mean? Like,
Yeah,
couldn't you
like,
just play?"
don't you have
Like
any?
I thought you guys had that stuff. Like how does this work?
Yeah,
So
no.
I'm sure you learned some lessons from your first gig. So what did you learn?
Did I learn anything? I just learned that I don't need to be throwing parties.
Fair enough.
Like, I really don't need to be.
I am like, yeah, 10 years into the game, and like I'm feeling that. Like I still get an itch every now and again. Like I
Me
like putting
too.
together lineups. Like
Yeah.
that's my favorite thing. Like
Hmm.
although I feel like it's kind of unappreciated here in Durban, but I I do like I love putting together lineups. It's also why like I love DJing. It's putting together different songs and sounds and sharing stuff that you enjoy. And that's like what's
Exactly.
dope about putting together parties. It's like telling people, "Hey, these are bands and these are DJs and these are people who I think are dope and you should be listening to." Like
Exactly.
that's what it is for me, at least.
No,
So,
same.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I feel
100%.
like so, but that's the thing. I'm always like imagining lineups. I'm always like just like, what about these people and these people together? Oh, that could be cool. So you got like that kind of thing going as well?
Oh, it's only for buildings, really. Yeah, I just want to put people in certain buildings. I'll be like, maybe like faces back to back with jumping backslash would be really, really good in this building on Commissioner Street. I think that'd be cool. Yeah, like stuff like that.
You're saying, oh, you don't know if you actually dig architecture, but it's still the thing that's like predominant even in your musical journey in such a way. Like that's the weirdest thing. It's almost like the two have gone hand in hand because would you have started DJing if you weren't doing the dissertation?
Definitely would not. I have this
Wow.
weird thing, like I respect music like maybe a bit too much. Like this is also why like I don't want to get into like producing and stuff. A couple people have asked me if I make music and I always like recoil in shock and horror like what? Why? No way. Like I respect it like a bit too much and like I kind of don't know I don't want to know the ins and outs of making something that I like that sounds good. Like that just seems like a bit too much power for me to handle specifically.
So you don't want to know how the sausage is made.
No ways. Like just let me have the vosh. It's fine. I don't need to know what you had to do to get it into that casing.
Yeah, no, I get that because like even as a comedian, like comedy is way less enjoyable now. Like, just, but I also think that might be the times, you know, it might be also
True.
slight like depression that like is like,
Yeah.
nothing's funny anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm. No, I hear you.
but have you
So,
found DJing to be like a great? Well, that's the thing. You've got these two careers going concurrently. So, like, are you able to balance them together easily or not so much?
I don't think balance is a thing that I, as a human being, like gets at any stage of my life. I'm either just doing both at the same time and going 100% at both, or I'm just not doing anything. Or it just becomes a thing of like, okay, maybe like the DJing has dried up a bit. Let me just go back and attend some workshops, go to some lectures, and like I don't know, maybe do some research or something like on like spatial stuff and architectural stuff. But it's never like a balance. I don't think it's either or it's both at the same time at 100%.
So you go through like slumps essentially where you're just
Definitely,
unmotivated.
yeah. Think like
Fuck it.
it's some sort of like mania. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not a psychologist and I've barely read or listened to enough to even know, but I know that like a lot more people go through that than, you might
Mm,
expect.
mm,
And so many of us are walking around with so many weird and undiagnosed things because it is just like, well, going to a shrink's fucking expensive.
true.
And it's also, I don't know, personally, I'm not gonna lie, I am a bit worried about it. Like, I've heard bad stories and I've
Yeah.
got I wrote a joke about it that I'll share here, where it's basically, Woody Allen is a big fan of therapy and he landed up marrying his daughter. So,
Yikes. Yep.
yeah.
Ah.
Like,
Yep.
so that's the thing.
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
worried they're gonna get stuff wrong. I'm worried they're gonna fuck me up even more,
Yeah,
and
gonna
also I
trigger
just can't
something.
afford it.
True. 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 No, I low-key feel the same way. Like I kind of don't want to find out about any neuroses I have. I don't want to give them like a title or like a proper name because like it's scary to think like, okay, I might actually have one of these things or like be living in one of these things. Like there's nothing wrong with them, but I personally don't need that confirmation. You see what I'm saying?
I totally fucking understand that. So I'm not even gonna lie, because I do read like certain things online. I'm like,
Me too.
that feels
I'm like,
familiar.
"Eesh."
Like that's a little close to home.
Just a
And then
tad.
I just think maybe it's just astrology. You
Hmm.
just
It's just a
all of them are the
general
same.
thing. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, all of them are the same, and you just pick the one that you think works for you. Like that's
Yep.
your like,
Yep.
but I feel like some people listening might be like, yo, you mental illness shaming or something. So I don't know. I
Oh,
don't know.
I
I don't know.
no. Yeah.
I'm just trying to be
I
funny for comedic effect.
yeah. No. This is just how I am and how I think about my mental health. But yeah. Yeah, I know. But there's no shame in going to therapy. There's no shame in trying to better yourself or trying to know more about how your brain works. Just I personally don't need that.
Yeah, as I say, I'm with you. Although I do think I will give it a try at some point.
At
Like
some point. Yeah, definitely.
I really gotta like someone's gotta like be like, yo, this therapist is the shit.
Yep.
Like the way like people sell drugs, like if someone comes up to me about a therapist, the way like someone comes up to me about like the fucking fake ecstasy pills they have in their pocket, that is when I know like that is the therapist I need in my life. Because if they can have that kind of effect on someone, then cool, that's for me.
I'm like sitting here with my mouth like agape. I don't do drugs, so I'm like, oh my gosh, what?
Oh, sorry.
No, it's cool. No,
I've
please tell me more about
partaken from.
your escapades. I love drug stories. That's also why I
Oh
love
yeah,
trap music. Like, give me the
trap
content.
music's the best.
It's so good. Like, it makes me feel like I'm the one selling the drugs. But I don't know what they look like. But I'm out here flicking my wrist, cooking in the kitchen. Yeah, no, tell me about your escapades.
Oh no, definitely not. Like that's a comedy show in 20 years' time, past statutes of limitations and all of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's when those things will come out. No,
Okay,
like
okay,
I don't
okay.
I don't know, but to be completely honest, most drug stories are actually very boring and very like, oh, we spoke and told each other things that we don't tell people usually,
Oh,
and
okay.
we said I love you, and like
Oh,
the
it just sounds like the girls' bathroom.
well, that's why people do coke, I think. It's like an excuse to go and like hang out like in a private space, like at a club together. Like
Ooh,
it's
I love that.
I I I do think like part of cocaine is the ritual, and I mean the other part is
100%.
the super addictive drug. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, nobody actually wants to do it. It's just it happens and then now you're here.
I don't know. Like I will be honest with you. Like I don't even do like that much cocaine. It's not like my drug of choice. Although
Mhm.
during like lockdown, it has definitely like been the thing I've been craving the most. It's just like, oh, I would love to just be
Damn.
at a dirty bathroom with a shitty band on like stage, like, and I can barely hear them, like because it's all distorted coming through the bathroom window, and I'm there with like three of my best friends, and we're just cutting up lines and telling jokes and just talking shit about everyone in the fucking club. Like that is, I miss that.
Yo, that sounds extremely architectural, by the way. That short story. You should consider a degree in
I
architecture.
think it's I think it's just being a writer, when you tell a story, you've got to describe
Yeah, you have
things.
to.
Yeah, it's the whole storytelling thing, but
Mm,
that's actually one thing we can finish up on this. I wanted to ask you about architecture's effect on your DJing. How
mm,
much has it influenced the way you put together sets? Because it does seem like you put together your sets quite meticulously. You're not someone who seems to freestyle things. So is that
no.
like because your brain's naturally like that, or is it because of the approach that you've learned, I guess, through your studies?
It's definitely the latter. They kind of indoctrinate you at architecture school. Like from the beginning, every lecturer has an agenda. Like you have to do things a certain way in order for your idea to come across a certain way, which most of the time you're trying to reach a standard which has been set by these lecturers. So you do develop a method and you do adopt their methods of working, which is you look up a precedent. You can't think of anything new. Everything has been done under the sun. So you look for a precedent, you analyze the precedent, and then you try and replicate it. And then you kind of like modify it to suit maybe, let's say, a concept that you have.
That sounds a lot like Stealing Like an Artist, which is this
Basically,
book
it's the
like
same.
that was written years ago,
Yeah.
and like
Just
it's basically
repackage it
the
for the
whole
21st century. Yes.
exactly. That's it.
Yeah.
Like there's no new art. It's all just rehashing old shit.
Yep. Same thing with architecture. So yeah, that's kind of like the approach I had like for most of my sets. Like I listen to a lot of mixes. I look for music that sounds like the music I heard in a mix that I like. And then I try and put it together. I try and put it together in a way that makes sense to me. I don't know how to like say it like in actual words, but like maybe if
I mean, that makes sense.
yeah, like it's just supposed to sound like chronological in a way. It's like the song I play next is supposed to sound like it should be played next, according to
Oh,
me.
snap. So,
Yeah,
oh, but it's according to you. So you've got like an emotional attachment to that song. You've got like, I dig this track. Like
I
it
guess
makes me
so.
feel this way. Like,
Yeah,
so
Or even
Does that come
something,
up like different feelings and stuff, or is it all like sound based essentially? Because you're like, you know, an architect, so I could imagine like your sets would be more structural in terms of
yeah,
actual
in terms
sound.
of like, yeah, they're structured in terms of like structural in terms of the sound. But I don't know like these sound terms, so I'm not gonna like try and speak in like harmonies or like melody or whatever. But if let's say the drum pattern on the previous song reminds me of another song that I like, I could try and mix those together, and if it works, it does. If
Yeah.
I don't like it, then I'll switch it up. But yeah, like I listen to mixes that I like. I try and emulate them using songs that I like or songs that I know.
I mean,
And
that sounds like a solid way to learn how to do something.
yeah, it might be a bit more like it might sound less fun than DJing looks, but that's just how I work.
I think, I mean, I've seen, well, it depends on the DJ because
True.
I like I'm someone when I did DJ for a while because I did do it for a few years and like I was okay at it. Like I think I was actually more on the track selection side when I tried. I mean, I played like real clubs and I had real dance floors. Like I take the
Mm.
piss out of myself a lot, but like I wasn't like a terrible DJ. But fuck, now I just forgot where I was going because I was just trying to defend myself there for no reason. You weren't even attacking me.
Lol. No, we were talking about like how different DJs probably mix differently.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. So I was someone who like I would just listen to a lot of stuff at home, and like I'd practice with different songs. So like I would have like 3 song like medleys that I dig to use together, like
Yeah,
typically, and
yeah.
then I would use that in different sets. So I wouldn't have necessarily like a whole set planned out, but I would have like different sections that I'll enjoy playing together, and then I would try and mix
Ah,
that in with other sections of like songs that I liked, and then, you know, you mix it up from time to time, try different things. But I'm definitely someone who I wouldn't say like I tried to read the crowd so much as I just tried to like get them
play
to
all the
stay.
songs. Yeah,
Like,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, man. I
I
mean,
was kind of
yeah,
begging at
really.
times, you know? Like when you bring out like the Britney Spears "Hit Me Baby One More Time," like when there's like a group of girls on the dance floor, it's like, yeah,
Listen,
no,
yeah,
I've sold out here. Like,
yeah, I think the millennial, no, you're also a millennial. Let me say the Gen
yeah,
Z equivalent is bringing out an Azealia Banks song at a queer party when you can see that you're fucking up. Then you're like, okay, the girls are gonna come back for this one because I would come back for this one.
actually, so what is up with the queer love of Azalea Banks? Because like
Um,
she seems like a problematic fave. Like,
she is fucking amazing. I think just I won't speak for the entire queer community, but for myself, I personally extend more grace for her fuck ups because she's black and she's queer and she's super talented and she's been done dirty by the industry and she's still like 100% herself. I think somebody tweeted something about but when performers don't have like an alias or anything, like they're kind of like susceptible to being themselves the whole time. So they kind of don't
yeah,
have like they can't like catch a break. They can't switch between like, oh, this is my stage persona and this is like my real life. She's just sort of like always there. That's just her. That's her. So I'm just like, girl, you do what you're doing. I'm gonna play these bops because you've got bops.
that's the thing. More than most people, she has been unashamedly herself, and like you know,
Yeah,
you could say as an industry person or something like that, it's been to her detriment. But at the same time, like she's still got people who love and respect her, and she's still going to talk her shit. She's still going to say
true.
what she thinks and she feels, and people will call her out, and she'll deal with that.
Exactly.
And
And the
like
queer community does call her out. Don't get me wrong. Like people
she gets
will like
called
be on
out
her ass.
fucking
Mm,
constantly. Like that's the thing. I
mm.
know like more about Azalea Banks through her being called out than anything.
Most people do, but some of us are just there for the music and for the talent. Also, a lot of her takes end up being correct, no matter how crass she's worded them, no matter how unbecoming it was for her to say those things at the time. But yeah, the truth comes out, and usually it's what she said.
So is that why like is that the inspiration for your Twitter essentially?
How? No, no, elaborate on that question. How do you mean?
Well, no, I was just like, because you do give hot tush takes. You
I
don't, you
do?
don't like give career ending takes, but like you
You
do say some things that
know
like
what?
I can't even think of a fucking example now, but I've definitely seen like you be like a little bit spicy at times, or just like stake a claim that like most other people wouldn't. So I can't think now. Like maybe like I'm just imagining things, but like that is the picture I have of you, like in my interactions with you online. So I
That
don't know.
is wild. Okay, maybe like the little Twitter arguments I'd have with like blogs and stuff, or like pulling Leon's leg about his UK gorm and stuff, and asking why London is making Amapiano and like calling it something weird that doesn't make sense. Maybe that's what you're picking up. I'm just talking to like try and get some clarity a lot of the times because a lot of tweets and stuff that I see it's just like a contextual, which is the nature of Twitter. It's like
Yeah.
280 characters. What context can you add unless you like make a whole thread? But who's got time to
And
thread
who's gonna read
everything?
that?
Exactly. But sometimes it'll like spark an interest and then I'll ask and I'll engage. And if it seems spicy, maybe it's the way I type. But I assure you, I'm not trying to be antagonistic or like trying to start any shit. I'm just like asking to ask, or maybe just trying to gauge if I'm being crazy or if there's other people that also think the same things.
Oh lordy, that is yeah. My Twitter experience is generally, am I the crazy one or they? Like that is me scrolling the whole day. Like,
hmm
wait, is that a real opinion? Are they trolling? Is this a joke? Okay, let me
Uh-huh.
check their account. Okay,
Yeah,
this
I love going and
seems
like
seems
checking
like
their
a real
account.
person. Like,
Yeah, like you can like kind of see, okay, maybe they've been tweeting like this the whole time. It wasn't just one hot take. And then I'll be like, okay, okay, it's just you. Then I move on.
cool. I think yeah, we got a pretty decent podcast out of that. Are you happy?
I mean, happy is a loaded term, but yes.
Are you happy with the podcast that we just recorded?
Yeah, no, this was chilled, a lot less stressful than I thought coming into it.
Yeah, because you were initially like, oh, I don't know if I want to do it. And I was just
Super
like,
apprehensive.
no, but yeah, like, I feel personally like I'm at a point where like I can like do this with people no matter what. Like, no matter how you're
That's
feeling, I will get you into the vibe. But you were on board
must be
from the get
nice.
go. So,
True,
like,
true.
it didn't need much coaxing at all. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for like sharing so freely, even though you were so scared to come on. Yet like I feel like this is like part one of like seven probably
Oh
because
my
we didn't even
word.
scratch the surface.
True, true.
But cool. Oh, yeah, so I will put links and everything in the show notes, but where can people find you?
I'm mostly tweeting. I just be on Twitter. Even if I'm not writing anything, I'm scrolling. Just dormant youth, one word, all caps. And you can also check out my Instagram if you want, but I don't post anything on there. Maybe a story about how hungover I am, but that's it.
Any mixes in particular people should check out?
Mm, Well, you can check out the CTM festival mix I did with Club Quarantine. Quarantine. That's available on YouTube under Club Quarantine CTM Festival. I think it's on Resident Advisors channel, which is wild. But you can also
Casual.
catch it on the can catch it
Casual
on
resident
the
advisor, boiler room, 3 years in. No worries.
oh shit. When you say it like that, I'm doing the most actually. But yeah, also my boiler room set is also on YouTube under Boiler Room, streaming from isolation with Pussy Potty. You can go check out all of my clangs there. My favorite mix isn't online though. I
Oh,
don't know
why
what
not?
happened. It was for Fables of Jables on
Oh,
Mixcloud
okay.
on the other guys radio. Shout out to you guys. But I don't know what happened to that episode. Yeah. But you can also check out
Might appear at some point. Sorry.
It might appear at some point. But you can also check out my mix for Not Sorry Club's takeover for Uzuri, Lorato Kuti's record label. That was a cool mix.
Oh, cool.
I enjoyed that. And yeah, shout out to everybody. I had fun. You know, it was cool.
Cool. Yeah, I look forward to actually dancing along to one of your sets in real life when we can eventually do that.
Yeah, eventually.